when you love to dance, you're expressing yourself. I think the really great teachers, instructors are actually pulling that emotion out of you because when you feel your body moves differently, right? You extend more. If you're yearning for something, then you have this uplift and your chest is forward and your head is up and your neck is more exposed. If you're feeling this moment where you're vulnerable, you're going to cave and you're going to contract more. And like, how does your body move? And then your head kind of moves after. And how do you express that on your face? That's not technique, that's feeling. And there's this difference when you are watching a performance, but then you're pulled in and you're now part of it. You feel what they feel and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's real."
Hi, everyone. My name is Priscilla Piper, and welcome to the Decision to Dance podcast. Today's guest is Charmaine Williams, who is based in Dallas, Texas, and is a technology director over generative AI. We talk about all things dance. We talk about life. This is such an all-encompassing episode. So before we get into it, please don't forget that you can follow us and give us a rating. Let us know how we are doing if you have been listening to our episodes. And when I say we, I mean me. Let me know how I'm doing. But when I say we, I mean the podcast. Let us know how we're doing. Give any feedback that you would like. We appreciate the honesty and want to make this as good and great as we possibly can. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. In one of your posts from a few years ago, you said, "I am a wife, a mother, a daughter. I am a woman working in technology, a nonprofit board member, an advocate for women and the homeless. I am a dancer, a singer. I am an artist. I choose to be a woman pursuing her dreams while still working at a Fortune 10 company, and I've chosen different paths that allow me to be the best version of myself for me and for everyone else around me." No, that was kind of a lot, but I loved it so much that I just couldn't take any more off of it. So I loved that. And I love hearing you state all of the things that you are, all of the things that you do, which is a lot. And a lot of people have a lot on their plate, and you are definitely an example of that. But I feel like you're doing it beautifully by prioritizing the things that you love in addition to, having a family and friends and all of that. So I bring this up because I would love for you to tell us if someone else was wanting to pursue what they love while balancing all of these other things in their life, their responsibilities and their goals, what would you tell them?
Wow. It's funny, you read that back and I was like, who wrote that?
It
I was
was
like, oh,
you
I guess I wrote it
on Instagram.
on Instagram, and it's there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's so funny because I am still pursuing a lot of those things. Um, but for me, it's important to find what brings me joy. And one of the things about me is like what brings me joy is actually what brings other people joy. And so what makes my heart smile is when I can put a smile on someone else's face. I know it sounds like super corny,
No, I love it.
but that is very much me, and kind of like what I would do. But as a person who does that and kind of just like gives so much of herself, yeah, I also found that before all of that, I was dedicated to being a mom, to learning how to be a wife, to my career and making sure that I was the best at those things. Um, and it wasn't actually until my daughter was in college that I actually finally started to do something for me. And that was really important for me because I was a teen mom. And so I was a young mom. I had just turned 17 when I had my daughter. And so for me, my dream was to be Broadway. I could see it. I envisioned it. I was going to go to school on the East Coast. It was all like in my head. And then towards the end of my junior year, I found out I was pregnant and I had my daughter my senior year. And so, as a responsible parent, I did not choose the um, artist and creative way to go with my life. And so I decided to make sure that I could provide everything that I could for my daughter and that she came first. Um, and anything that I wanted to do related to my dreams would come after that, after I made sure she was cared for. And so my path, as I kind of had mentioned, was not the traditional path that people would take. It's not the traditional path that people would enter into a Fortune 10 type of company. And so for a very, very, very long time, um, I continued to put others before me. And that was such a time where really it was more like in 2018 that I finally decided that I was actually going to pursue dancing. And that was something where I had joined a dance team and decided that that was something that I was going to do. It was the right time. Um, I did the right things as a parent. My daughter was off, starting to become an adult herself and live her own life. And I was like, huh, now what do I do with all this time?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and someone once said, you can't sit still. I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. So I'll just keep adding on top. Like I don't really take things away most of the time. Like
Yeah,
I add on top.
I love
And
that.
so for me, that was like one of the really, that was the first time in my life that I finally made a decision for me. And I think in a lot of the other ways, I also started to create what were boundaries. It like forced me to create boundaries. It forced me to be like, I gotta go. It's rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've got to go and do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And
Creating
so,
time for those things.
yeah, it's actually really important to create the time for those things, and make sure that you can, it's important to nurture who you are and like what brings you joy. And so, as much as I was going in and making sure that I could spark joy in other people's lives, um, I finally learned that I needed to do the things for me, and it's okay. I think it's one of the other things is like it's giving yourself permission to not just be and do things that spark joy, but also to dream. And it took me a long time to give myself permission to dream, to wonder what could be and start to explore even just beyond like what is the day to day, what can I see myself in as this next step, because it was always about surviving in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And even just most recently, it's like, what does life look like when I'm thriving?
Mm-hmm.
Or trying to design a life that is a thriving life. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
it was a very long-winded answer to
Yeah.
that,
No,
but
I
it's
love it.
okay to give yourself that freedom to pursue the things that bring you joy and make you a better version of yourself. I can show up as me, excited, energized, even though I was tired. I was excited and energized because I was doing the things that I loved, and it
Yeah.
made me a better me, made me a better leader.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and being able to be an advocate for people who don't have a voice because of some of the things that I had experienced in my life. So,
Yeah, no, that was a wonderful answer. And that's the reason why I ask that is because I feel like so many people can relate to that in one way or another. Maybe it is because someone else listening has also been a teen mom, or it's something
mhm,
different where we all have, different things on our plates and it's hard to learn how to prioritize the things that you love when you are in survival mode and
mhm,
when you do have to put other people above yourself. So that's why I wanted to get your input, and I think it's really important to also give that backstory, to give context to your answer.
mhm,
So thank you for sharing all of that. So you talked about allowing yourself to dream again. So
mhm.
what sparked that for you? What allowed you to start dreaming again?
Yeah. There's 2018, I think for me was such a pivotal year. That was the year that I joined the dance team. I actually had a really, really dear friend. Her name is Priscilla Anderson. She's also a professional dancer. She's battling cancer right now as well, and has been on a very very public journey as she's battling that. But she was one who like encouraged me to go and audition, and I was like, we went to a performing arts high school together. So
Okay.
we knew each other back in high school.
Mhm.
We reconnected several years later, and then she was like, "Hey, I'm teaching a class. Come to the class." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then she's like, "Hey, auditions are tomorrow." And then I
Short
was like,
notice.
"Okay." And I was like, "I'm auditioning for her." Again, this is kind of like me doing things for myself. And
Mm.
like, I know that sounds weird, but I was like, okay, like I'm really nervous. I didn't really expect much for it, from it. And then it was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna audition. So I told my husband, I was like, hey, um, by the way, I'm going to the dance class, and then also there's an audition. Took like all day.
Mhm.
Um, so I auditioned, and she was like, so it's this whole process. And then I found out that I made it in. I made it to the dance team. So I had no plans on auditioning or making it to the dance team. I just went to support my
Wow.
friend. And
Mm.
like, she knows the story. We talk about it to this day. She's like one of my dear best friends, and I valued her opinion so much. And I get, oh my gosh, I get a little emotional about this because between my husband and my best friend, they see things in me that I don't see in myself. And so she saw this ability in me to dance that I didn't think that I really had to be a part of a dance team. Like, I knew I loved to dance and be expressive and be able to kind of just like show this emotion. But I didn't think I was like the dancer that could be that. And one of the most amazing things about dance is that you can express yourself, and you can become, or you can create, or you can evoke this emotion, um, that can transcend like words. And I think for me, you wouldn't say that I have like the best technique, but I have heart and I have emotion, and I show these things on my face, and I'm expressive. Um, and even when I forget choreography, because that was a really, really huge part for me, is I would forget the choreography, and then I would mess up. And so that would affect my technique and everything else. But beyond all of that, she saw, I guess, some of the best parts in me
Mhm.
that took me a couple years on that team to really cultivate. And like, I didn't understand. I'm like, I'm not that person. And so, gosh, my voice is cracking. Um, but so much of like what you and I had experienced in like Galen's class, like really solidified that for me. Like, I still have that shirt and the sweater that says like, it has like all of the lines through it, and it says like,
Oh, I have it too. Yeah,
yeah,
the
and
I'm a
it says like,
dancer.
I'm a dancer, like,
Mhm.
period. Like, there's
Mhm.
no qualifying statement behind it. And so that happened in 2018, completely unplanned, and I went with it, and I was part of that dance team for 5 years, and got to do some pretty amazing things. But also, what happened in 2018 is, um, as I had mentioned, I work for this company that's in one of the Fortune 50s, um, and it was a really pivotal moment, where within the city of Dallas, this company, and it's AT&T. There's a couple YouTube videos, but this company was enacting a program that was really centered at the heart of some of the social issues that were really impacting the city. And so for the city of Dallas, it was homelessness. And for me, homelessness is something that is close to me because of the way that my mom and I experience life together. So part of my life experiences is knowing and understanding what it's like to be housing insecure. And so there were times where essentially we were homeless, and homelessness is defined where you don't have a home. And so we were evicted. We didn't have a place to call our own. We were staying with people, for some pretty rough times. And it wasn't because there was this stigma and what people always think of with homelessness and some of the social issues. Um, she had a job. She sometimes had two jobs. It wasn't enough. She escaped an abusive, very abusive situation um, with my father, and she also didn't have any mental health issues um, or drug issues that contributed to that. It was simply the livable wage was not something that she was getting. And it was impossible to live in San Francisco at that time, or anywhere really in California. And so I experienced that with my mom, and I know exactly what it's like to to go through that as a child, to observe and watch how my mom had a health issue, and she was worked 39 and a half hours, just 30 short of being able to get benefits from an employer, and it was done purposefully. So
Mm.
she had no health benefits. She had no vacation time. When she had sick days, and she had an autoimmune disorder. Um, she still has it. She's still living with it today, but she lives with me. So fast forward to the story.
Mm.
Mommy's with me.
Mhm.
But she managed it in the hospitals, in the emergency rooms. And when she didn't have days off, she had to call in sick, and that got her fired, and sometimes that got us evicted, and sometimes she worked two jobs and it still wasn't enough. So I saw all of these things happen and experienced it as a child.
Mhm.
And going through these things, we didn't have much. I got bullied as a kid, talked about because of my clothes and all the things. And so I've seen a lot of these things, and I understand what it's like for a family or a person to go through and potentially live check to check or not even check to check. And it's like this thread that once it starts to come apart, you find yourself in this situation. And if you don't have help and there isn't something that's there to kind of catch, um, then you end up on the street, and think about what it's like to be evicted. And, from coming from a place of like, not being able to have enough. And then what you find is that you have to pay more than normal people pay because you have been in this unfortunate situation. And so 2018 was kind of this year where there was AT&T that was coming up with, an opportunity for employees to get involved with these social issues. And for me, that it it was happenstance, and I heard a bunch of people kind of talking, and it felt like it was like all of the myths and the stigmas, and kind of like, oh, what can we do, the poor people, and here's what we think happens.
Mhm.
And there was this pivotal moment in the room, and I stopped and I said, what do you see when you look at me? And I let that silence sit for a minute, and people were kind of looking around. They're like, I said, do you see someone who actually went through not having a home, being housing insecure? Do you see that when you look at me?
Mhm.
Because homelessness doesn't have a look. We see the outcome, but
Mhm.
not parents and children and all of the other things, right, that happen when people are going through that. And so, to be completely honest, that was a story I was ashamed of. I felt like that didn't fit the corporate mold.
Mhm.
Um, because my journey into a corporate environment was one of a teen mom, of a mom who, I was a single mom initially when I started out with that company. Um, my mom had escaped in, an abusive environment. And I felt like those were things that continued to go against me. No one told me that, but that was what I felt like. And I
Mhm.
felt like that was a part of my life that I had to hide, because it was just another notch that kind of dropped me lower to prove that I didn't belong.
Mhm.
But in that year, I could not stand by while I had this opportunity, um, where people started to kind of say and shape what they thought homelessness was or what the reasons were without having facts. And
Mhm.
and
An
unbeknownst to me,
experience.
yeah, I became a voice, like a real voice that wasn't like, this is what happened to me, but it was a story of, this is what's on the other side. Because we didn't
Mhm.
stay there. we had help. There were and help in terms of very few people, right? Like family members or my mom being able to swallow her pride. But I learned from that. I learned from that, and that's why it was so important for me to provide for my daughter, and the decisions that I made in my life to make sure she was provided for was so important. Um, because I never wanted her to experience what I did.
Yeah.
I wanted her to have a better life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and those things made me stronger. And they made me who I am today. And but as a parent, a responsible parent, those are the things where I want to make sure that my daughter is provided for.
Mm-hmm.
And it was okay. And I knew it was okay to put all of my dreams on the back burner to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
I did what I needed to do. My mom did that for me. I'm going to do that for my daughter, and make sure that she was taken care of. And again, that was a time where, um, from her life, she was about to graduate college. I mean, she was in a whole different city. Um, and it was okay for me to finally put myself first, and it was very, very uncomfortable, but I found my voice in being an advocate. I found um my art in being a dancer. um I love to sing. I sing. I just did an event yesterday,
I
that was a
saw. I hopped on the Instagram
fundraiser.
live for a minute.
You did?
I did.
Oh my gosh, that was so crazy. But that's like
Yeah.
it's the seventh year of that event, and I've done it. um there was one year where I didn't do it, so I've done it for 6 years. But it's a fundraiser, that they use for scholarships with one of the employee groups within AT&T. So that's just such a treat. And so again, like all of these things happened between like 2018 and 2019, such pivotal years for me, and like my experience and really coming back to finding myself and like finding the things that spark joy. But yeah, that is a very, very long story. I'm here for the long stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the purpose for me, the purpose of this is to like get the long story because when we are in class, whether it's virtual or in person, you just chit chat real quick and then you don't always get to know that person. Sometimes you do, but not all the time. And I think it's so important to learn more about who we're dancing next to, who
Yeah.
we're, you know, um, who's in class with us,
Hmm.
because there's more to us than just the fact that we are dancers and the fact that we are taking class. There's more to our story
Oh yeah.
than just the 1.5 hour dance class. So thank you for sharing all of that. Oh, I was getting a little emotional listening, but that's why this is so important because it just helps you understand the person that you are today
Hmm.
by understanding and learning your story.
Yeah.
And it really goes to show that even within those hardships, there's purpose within
Hmm.
it, on the other side of it, or during it. And I think your story is something that I'm sure many people can relate to, whether they talk about it or not, because I'm sure many don't. Like you said, the stigma that comes with it.
Hmm.
So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing all of that, because I think it really also develops us as dancers. And it's important to share that whole story for you to understand what those years, the 2018, 2019, what that meant for you and why you did prioritize your family, your child, and giving us that history. So then now we understand how and why you decided to start to put yourself first again and
Hmm.
get back into dance, because it's not linear. And I think for many dancers it's not, for people in general, like your life is not linear. But I think as dancers we can experience, um I don't know, at least I feel like most of the time you look at dancers and you think, oh, they've just been on this trajectory of just going up, and I'm not
Yeah.
there. So that makes me feel not as good, you know? But I think
Yeah.
the reality is it's like we all have been like this. Not maybe not everyone, but like
Hmm.
especially the more life you live, it's
Oh
like
yeah.
roller coaster. Um
Absolutely.
and then you look back and you're like, "Oh wow, like I just went through all of that."
Yeah.
But I think as dancers, we tend to forget like what our life experiences have been, and we are so focused on how's your technique, how's your
Hmm.
performance, did you get the
Hmm.
audition, are you booking the jobs, and like obviously when that's your life, that's the
Yeah.
conversations that you're having, and that's important for various reasons. But I think it's also important to have those other conversations of like, what have you been through, you know, to get
Hmm.
to where you are. And I've also noticed throughout my life as well, I feel like many people who are the most empathetic and who care the most about other people and want the best for people. I mean, I could already tell that from you just looking at your social media. Just like you genuinely, like you're such a light within your, while you're dancing, but also outside of dance as well. And you really do care about people, but that comes from a place of challenges and
Hmm.
overcoming that and wanting other people to experience life maybe in a way that wasn't as challenging um, as you may have experienced. So you talked about your team,
Hmm.
your group. Are you still a part of that group, or you said you were in it for 5 years?
Yeah, yeah. I was in it for 5 years, and then I realized I was overcommitted.
Ooh,
Imagine
not
that.
surprised. Not surprised. Had to
Imagine
knock off something. Can't do it
that.
all.
Yes. So, in between all of that, so there was also there were some ands that were added to that situation. And so one of the ands was I started school during COVID. And so I added that to my plate.
Mm,
And I also added, how can I be a little entrepreneur and start my own business? Well, all the things, all
right.
the
On top
things.
of everything else you've already been doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to
I
clarify.
mean, working, going to school, started a side business, um, still
Dancing. Yep.
dancing with a commitment, right? So, I was on a dance team. The dance team was, amazing. The dance team's called Mom Crew. And the beautiful thing about this dance team is, it's made up of all moms. Like you have to be a mom in order to be a part of the dance team. Um, And so, being a mom, or a grandma, because there were grandmas on the dance team too, it was pretty amazing. So, every
Yeah, that's
single
cool.
person on the team was a mom, hence
Mm-hmm.
the name Mom Crew, but it
Mm-hmm.
also meant mind over matter, which was really great. And so, it was incredible. Definitely filled my cup with everyone that was there. One of the other things that, as I was going through this and COVID happened, and I was like, hey, I'm not driving downtown all the time. I can go in and reclaim, at least 2 to 2.5 hours out of my day every day. Like, what am I going to do at that time? Oh, I'll go to school. Okay, cool. And then there was a layoff with my husband, and we were kind of walking down the street ideating, and I was like, I could potentially do that. And it was, I started my own yard sign business because that's a really great idea to add to all the things that I'm doing, in addition to meeting the commitments, which at the end of the day, when I think about dance and like the commitment that it took, it was probably like about 50 hours a month by the time I started to look at like driving minimum commitments. And that was just like meeting the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Work started up again. I was still so I still had all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what I also found is that I started to float between thing to thing. So I was not fully present
I
anywhere.
see. Not intentional. Not, yeah, not
I was
present.
overcommitted.
Yeah.
My mom lives with me, and so sometimes she wanted to spend some time, and I was so focused on, okay, cool, time to mind shift because I'm going from like a creative to a professional back to a creative, like in the moment of a split second to being a student. And these
Mm-hmm.
things are happening all within the same day. I'm
Mm-hmm.
working, I got to go to rehearsal, I have homework. Oh, yeah, I have a yard sign. I
It's like
mean,
multiple lives in one day. It's
yeah.
like different hats. Where's my other hat?
So in 2020, I started school. In 2020, I started my own like business. And I started all those things. So you think like dance team 2018, doing my thing 2020. And so what it actually took was there was a whole freeze, that happened like in the Dallas area. And everything was shut down. So I had to stay home. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't go to work. Couldn't do dance. Couldn't do all the things. And there was this time that I spent with my mom, where we were talking about spending time and doing things together. And I realized I started to plan my life, my vacation days, whether or not we went somewhere around my rehearsal schedule. It wasn't the right thing anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I started to realize that my time is short with my mom.
Yeah.
Um, my mom is still around. She's still, we still have, time together at the house. But I just wasn't present. I wasn't present with my husband and I wasn't present with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And from a family perspective, that became really important. And something had to give. And I didn't want to give up what I was starting with my business and thought I was going to kind of like nurture and maintain. Um, and also, I wasn't sleeping a lot.
Oh, yeah, that's important. You can't
Yeah.
function without sleep. Maybe you can, but I can't.
So I was like, okay, um, this is a lot. Traffic was getting worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to find excuses, or finding joy in, oh, great, I can't. We're iced in. Oh, darn. And I was like, it's time for me to go and make space for someone else that really, really wants to be on the team and find that excitement. And with everything that was going on in my life, I didn't want to give up school. I thought that like that's really important to me. Um I'm pursuing my computer science degree. And so for me, that's not because somebody told me it. It's because I want to be a great leader. I want to understand. I have like my little side brain for technology. And I think it's important, for me to lead in that way and understand like what my team is doing. I've got software developers that, work underneath me, and we're doing things like scaled agile. And so it's really important for me to know, as just as a leader,
Mm-hmm.
what my folks are going through. So I'm not going to give up school, even though it's something that I added after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I felt like I owed it to myself to continue to nurture, um, my family, my relationships, work, and then this new entrepreneurship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was, people were like, you love it. And I was like, I do, but I want to do it on my own terms.
Mm-hmm.
I I can't continue to commit to it and know that I don't have the same fervor, like it's becoming work. And when your passion become it's not my job. Don't get paid for that, right? And so if
Mm-hmm.
it's becoming like work, I got to move out of the way and make space for someone else. And then I
Yeah.
also have to be able to, like, I didn't stop dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Um I don't dance as often.
Right.
Which I'm like, okay, now I think I need to pick it back up again. Because I was like, okay, I had the hiatus, we're good.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I started to dibble and dabble in other areas that I actually haven't really posted on Instagram.
Ooh.
Um,
I was gonna say, one of my initial thoughts when I was going through your Instagram was like, I want to see more dance videos. Not that you have to, not you don't have to, but I
yeah,
just love them, and I'm like, I need more. So
okay,
if you want a little nudge, I'm gonna
okay,
nudge you.
okay,
I'd love to
okay,
see more.
yeah,
Um, but I mean, so many great things there. I mean, I think it's so important, like you had mentioned earlier, about setting boundaries, and that's what
hmm,
you're doing within yourself. And one of my questions was like, how do you balance all of this? And maybe the reality is that you can't balance all of it, but you can balance this, and
yeah,
recognize when certain areas of your life are changing for you, and you can say, okay,
hmm,
well, in this season of my life, I'm prioritizing X number of things. These other things are going to be maybe not completely eliminated, but just like on the back burner just a little bit, and
hmm,
then maybe over time that shifts, those other things come back up, and the other
That's right.
elements go on the back burner, and it ebbs and flows as life changes over time. And I think you brought up a great point of you're still a dancer, you're still dancing, just not as often. And
Hmm.
I think that's underestimated because as dancers, I think you're taught that you have to be in class all the time, you have to be dancing all the
Hmm.
time. When you
Hmm.
are a professional dancer, that makes
Absolutely.
100% sense. But when you're
Yeah.
not, you
Hmm.
don't have to do that.
That's right. And you're still a dancer, though. You're still a dancer.
Exactly.
Even if you take that hiatus, and I mean, people do it for all different reasons, right? There could be injuries, there could be a setback, there could be, even life events. You've got to care for family, you've got to do X, Y, or Z. And so if you don't go in and dance for a year or 2 years, does that mean you're not a dancer? Because one would argue and say you could go right back into where you were. I mean, there's plenty of people that even used to be professional in their, and what they did with their career. They actually had a dance career, and then they go and then they're a parent and they're prioritizing their children
Mhm.
on purpose. And what do? They dance around the house.
Mhm.
And I will be the first person to say, I still dance around the house.
I
Um,
love it.
I
I
love to
love
do
it.
like little improv. Like I've had it in my heart to do like these little improv videos. Like I'll listen to a song and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see it in my head.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I should go in and just like, you know, dance it out.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
sometimes I do, and the family is there, or like I'll get my mom or I'll get my husband. Like my husband and I kind of have this thing where um we'll have songs that come on and then we're like dancing. He's cleaning the kitchen and I'm still dancing. So like it's just
Yeah.
like it's something that never goes away.
Agreed.
I think if you really love dancing, and for some people they've got to do it every day and that's okay, and for
Yeah.
others they can't do it every day but they want to, and that's okay too.
Mhm.
And for others, they don't necessarily need to do it every day, but they need to be able to have a vice or an outlet where they can get it out.
When you were talking about dancing at home and you're still a dancer even when you're dancing at home, I
Hmm.
relate to that so much. I actually I just posted a video yesterday. I literally was in my bathroom
Oh my
and I
gosh, I need to
washed
go
my
look at it.
hands and I was like, I really just want to like improv right now. And I had this like random idea and I put my phone on the ground and I was like, you know what? I don't know if you listen to Lord, but Lord's new single
Uh-huh.
is out. And I was like, you know what? I love that song from like the few times I've listened to it. I'm going to play that and I'm going to improv. And this is my idea. And I just did this like random thing in the bathroom. But,
I
but
can't wait. Now I want to
so
go see it. Now I want to go see it.
yeah, let me know what you think. But the reason I'm saying that is back to your point of you can dance at home, whether it's in your kitchen, in your bathroom, in your bedroom, and still be a dancer. And you don't have to be in class consistently or on a team or dancing professionally. And I also feel like the crazy part about when you take a break and you come back to it,
Hmm.
sometimes I feel like you're even better
You
than
know,
when you left it.
here's what's so crazy is that when I decided it was time for me to leave and create space for like myself and someone else on the team, um, I ended up taking a class, and it was actually I was dancing with Priscilla, and it was one of the classes she was teaching, and she's like, "Come on, come see me." And so, like, so many of the things, I was like, "I can't. I have rehearsal." Once upon a time, so I went to my high school is called Las Vegas Academy. Um, that's the short version. But back when I was there, it was Las Vegas Academy of International Studies, Performing and Visual Arts.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you say Las Vegas Academy?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you lived in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Okay, I actually did too.
What?
That's so funny. I mean, yeah, when I was a kid growing up, that's actually where I got my like foundation in dance was when I lived in Las Vegas. I don't live in Las Vegas anymore. I'm in Tennessee, but I miss it so much. And the reason I miss it is
Mm-hmm.
because there's just so much art within that city. So many performances and just different opportunities there. So tell me more about your high school experience.
I went to Las Vegas Academy the second year that high school was in existence. And so it was a magnet school. And that magnet school was focused on two things. It was focused on the arts, both like performing and visual arts, but also international studies, which is um, really the studies of languages. And so we had people that basically you had to choose your major. So you had to audition if you were in any of the arts programs. So if you did visual arts, you had a portfolio. If you were in dance, you had to dance. If you were in theater, you had to do monologue, um, whatever it was. So I um, had to do a monologue because my initial major was theater.
Okay.
Surprise. I know, huge surprise. Very expressive person, majors
Uh-huh.
theater. Um,
Absolutely.
so I had to audition. So eighth grade, I'm preparing all the things, and you had to audition
Mhm.
there. And then my sophomore year, um, you could double major after your sophomore year. And so that's what I did. So I did dance as an elective. So I did like
Mm.
dance PE. So instead of PE, I took
Mhm.
dance.
Mhm.
Um, and then my junior and my senior year, I was a double major. So I did theater and I did dance. And so what we did at Las Vegas Academy, it's almost like you didn't have normal coursework. So it was like you, maybe this is where I started doing like all of the ands in my life.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
but you didn't have normal coursework. What you had was like almost like college prep. We had homework all the time. I never lightened my load. Um, and I decided I was going to do dance as a major because I loved it so much. Now, I was not put in the higher dance classes because I would get overwhelmed, my memory, and I couldn't remember the routine.
Mhm.
And so I constantly like, and that seemed to be like such a mental block for me. Well, I was nervous and I was always comparing myself
Yep.
to other people. And I'm like, I didn't dance when I was two. There's a lot of people at the academy that were like
Mhm.
dancing since they were two and they were like on the dance teams.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
and it was just, it was such a welcoming environment. And so I feel like I brought a lot of those things, like even though I wasn't in like the advanced class where they were doing like Martha Graham and like all of the
Mhm.
things, I got exposed to all kinds of different dance, and it was like ballet and jazz and there was a little bit of tap. And then there was a little bit of hip hop. But what's kind of crazy is I was not the best like hip hop person. I was more lyrical. Loved it with my whole heart.
Ooh,
Now,
me too. I'm a lyrical girl in my heart and soul.
no one says lyrical anymore. They say contemporary.
And you know it's not lyrical. Honestly, I have a whole thing on lyrical. It is so hard to find. It's not even funny. Including in
Hmm.
major dance cities, I literally look. I mean, occasionally I'll look. And even when I see lyrical classes, sometimes I'm like, I don't
Hmm.
know if that's lyrical. I mean, at least that's not the lyrical I grew up doing. So
Oh no.
my
Yeah.
heart craves it constantly. So I'm there, right there with you.
I live in lyrical. We did a lyrical piece when I was on the dance team. And it was actually the first time I was able to co-direct
Ooh.
I know. And so it's a piece that was done to Mary J. Blige. I think it was a Mary J. Blige song.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was a moment where I was like talking with everybody that was on the team that was in that video. And even when we were doing the piece, and I was like, you have to have emotion. And what I mean by that, like I was able to actually draw out the vulnerabilities while we were doing the video um, of insecurities and being able
Mm-hmm.
to let those emotions sit and see all of these women as mothers
Mm-hmm.
and also show what kind of vulnerabilities we have as women
Mm-hmm.
as we're walking into these things. But then there was this dichotomy of like, well, what happens on the other side? Like you have it. And so there was one person that like hated what they look like without makeup, and they felt like um, they didn't look right without makeup. And there was like just this image as she was going in and like taking off her makeup on camera, not just for her to see, but for everyone to see, because she knew in that moment as she was taking this off and seeing her face. And, I'm like behind her, obviously, like not in the frame, but I'm like
Mm-hmm.
coaching her. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. Like, do you know that you're beautiful? Like, look at that person in the mirror and say to yourself that you're beautiful. And it was just like you could see the vulnerability that came through
Mhm.
in that video. And like sometimes that's what lyrical does to me. Like I felt like that
Yeah.
was like true, like that was like a true lyrical piece. It was not a contemporary piece. And
Mhm.
so I really wanted kind of like those things to come through as we were, as we were going in and filming that. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's so important because I feel like the lyrical dancing that I've seen, especially I guess for me, because my experience has been in the competition world, you tend to lose that emotion because it's so
Hmm.
focused on the technique and all of
Right.
that, which I understand and can appreciate. I love technique, but when you lose your emotion and you lose your face and you lose your story that you're telling,
Hmm.
then what really is the point of this, you know? And I
Hmm.
think we
Exactly.
forget that as dancers, and I definitely lost sight of that myself. And I would say within the last couple of years, thanks to the classes I've been taking, it's helped me so much just bring that back. And it's like, oh, this is why I do it. It's like I lost that. And so I feel like that's such a gift for you that you have to be able to bring that out of people because that I can't imagine that's an easy job, an easy task. Maybe it's
Yeah.
easy to you, but it's
No,
so
no.
important because as people, as dancers, we're so focused on these outside things, but it's like we got to
Hmm.
remember like who we are and being okay with who we are and sharing that with other people and what a gift that we have to share that within our dancing. But oftentimes we are too scared to let it out.
Hmm.
So I think that's so beautiful that you had that opportunity and that you did it also when you were with the mom crew as well,
Hmm.
bringing that out of those dancers and reminding them, there's, so much greatness within them. So I love that you've been able to be a cheerleader, but also to really just like tap into something within these people and bring out like their sense of self as they're dancing.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's the biggest gift in the world when you're able to tap into that because not everyone has been able to do that. So I think that's so beautiful.
I actually loved that, and it was such a transformational moment for those that were like able to be like a part of that and kind of like in that video. When you're learning to be a dancer, I think the really great teachers, instructors, or even choreographers are actually pulling that emotion out of you. They're making you feel, um, because when you feel, your body moves differently, right? Um, you extend more. If you're yearning for something, then you have this uplift, and your chest is forward, and
Mhm.
your head is up, and your neck is more exposed. If you're feeling this moment where you're vulnerable, you're going to cave and you're going to contract more. And like, how does your body move? And then your head kind of moves after. Um, and how do you express that on your face? And so a lot of like, um, that's not technique, that's feeling.
Mhm.
And as dancers, when you can feel when you dance and you have people um, that are actually nurturing that and trying to bring that out, whether you're taking a class, which is what I loved about Galen, because she was like, no, we're going to focus right here. We're going to focus on this emotion and this emotion only. I was like, that's my jam. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. And then, sometimes when you're in ballet and like you've seen it and you're like, wow, that is some wonderful technique, but the face is blank. Like I feel nothing
Yep.
except for, I actually feel the music. I
Yeah.
hear all the things with the music, and I hear the piano, and I hear that this is like upbeat, and I see the body moving, but there's no expression to bring that person into it. I know I'm watching a performance. Um,
Yeah.
and there's this difference when you are watching a performance, but then you're pulled in and you're now part of it. You feel what
Yeah.
they feel and you're like, "Oh my gosh, that's real." Like you think about
Mhm.
Alvin Ailey, right? If you've watched and seeing, Alvin Ailey like in person with, how those dancers are performing is so different than just like seeing it on a screen. But like
Mhm.
you could like the whole audience can feel it. you can see, and like there's this movement to the bodies,
Mhm.
where everyone is in sync, or even if people aren't quite in sync, you know that their emotion is.
Mhm.
um and for me, like, that is what I yearn for dance. And
Yeah.
it's hard to find that when you're taking
It's so hard.
classes, because
Yeah.
people are like, okay, we're going to hurry up and do this, and we're going to go
Yeah.
in, and here's the 30 seconds, and okay, get ready to film. And that's a great thing for commercial performers.
Mhm.
But when you're really trying to use dance as a way to connect, as a way to feel,
Yeah.
and even for me, it was like both theater and dance were ways to escape, right? Like I was able to
Mhm.
escape reality
Mhm.
through either the character that I put on from a theater
Mhm.
perspective, or um, a feeling, or a set of feelings, or a story from
Mhm.
beginning to end, of like how you start to how you
Yep.
end,
Yep.
in that story. That was my way of escape, like
Yeah.
completely. So
Absolutely.
the academy did so much in just like learning all of that.
I love what you said about like having that theater experience and that school experience and how
Hmm.
that shaped you as a dancer and as a performer and it encouraged you to share your story as you're dancing because as you were talking I was like how did you know to do that because I feel like I mean it's natural for some
Hmm.
but I think for many like it's not for some reason I think
Yeah.
people lose that sense of like intuition when it comes to just telling a story as they're moving but I love that you were able to receive that education and be a part of that community. And so I feel like you've been a part of some really great communities between that, the mom
Hmm.
crew, probably other things as well that we haven't even talked about. How important is it to have a sense of support and a sense of community as an individual, but also as a dancer as well?
It is really, really important to have that support. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of dancers will go in and they're so focused on taking the class and getting the technique or getting the material down that sometimes we forget about the other people that are
Mm-hmm.
also dancing alongside us, just like you had
Yep.
said, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
earlier on. Um, and so I think that's so important for us to keep in mind that a lot of times it's not just about us when we're dancing or when we're
Mm-hmm.
taking that class, but it's about encouraging others. And you have no idea how you can be like that bright spot or that spark for someone
Mm-hmm.
else that was like doubting themselves and was like facing their inner critic the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and or getting frustrated, at like what was happening. So that and just in and of itself and just like in an environment, even just a class environment is really important. And then I think the other thing is as a choreographer, as an instructor or a teacher, the type of environment that you create for your classes is so important. Like I've taken classes for different people. Like, okay, you're great, but you
Mm-hmm.
whip through this routine so fast and you are so focused on getting through all of the choreography in this time that you didn't take the time to like read the room and pay attention to the class. They were all falling
Mm-hmm.
behind. So as
Mm-hmm.
much as you wanted to get that choreography like out of your head and onto the people,
Mm-hmm.
two people in that class got it. The rest of the people were lost. They're instead of having joy, they had frustration as they were
Mm-hmm.
going in and taking that class. And especially if it's like a beginner class, I feel like for like beginner classes of anything, instructors and choreographers have to not focus on themselves and they have to focus on what's happening with the class.
Mhm.
And I've seen that in several examples, whether some of those classes are virtual or in person, where you'll have someone and they like have like a whole 1 minute routine, but because of the pace of the class, they are totally fine with getting through the 20 seconds and making sure that people understand the connection through those moves, or making
Mhm.
sure that they understand like, hey, are there any questions? And again, professional dancers, that is the way that you go. You need to pick it up, it
Mhm.
needs to be quick, like all of those things. But for a non-professional dancer that are taking a lot of the classes, that are not taking that for like, hey, I'm in this workshop and it's to make sure that I have like the memory and the retention and the quickness to get a gig.
Mhm.
That support, even from those that are trying to pour out into the dancers, is important. And then lastly,
Mhm.
obviously, if you are like a professional dancer or you are part of a community, or even if you're part of a team that's like a pre-professional team, which I was a part of, that support through the other dancers of what you're going through and even some of like your non-dance stuff, right? Like life is lifing,
Yep.
um, also becomes like so, so very important.
I agree. So many great things that you said. One thing that I love that you brought up that I feel like not enough people talk about is when you are a beginner dancer and you are taking from a teacher, the things that need to happen in those classes. It depends on each class, but sometimes you leave and you're like feeling worse about yourself because the teacher just gave you a minute and a half combo and you're like, I've been back in the dance for 5 weeks. How am I supposed to do this? And it is a combination of like, what are you telling yourself, but also what is the teacher doing? And I can see where it gets tough when you have a combination of the advanced and the beginner level. And I love when teachers, I think, can do all of that. Like they can teach professionals and then they can also teach beginners and intermediate level dancers and people who've never danced before, um, who know when to adjust how they teach class based off of who's in the class, what type of class you're teaching, and all of that. So I feel like that's a great segue into Galen Hooks. That's how we met virtually in 2020. And so, can you talk a little bit about how taking those classes made an impact on you and your dancing?
Yeah, I had looked up really to like Galen Hooks, and even like her background I hadn't, like, I wasn't aware of at that time. But what I found is that like she created this community, right? This virtual community, and that, you know, during the pandemic of like accessibility, I would have never have been able to take her classes, and actually like I'd really want to take like her class in person, and I haven't been able to do it because of time. But going back to like what she did is she created this environment during the pandemic where, like, again, classes were accessible. We were able to watch each other and watch each other grow, and like Galen would go in and watch us perform as she, like, after she taught, like, who wants to come up on Zoom? Like, okay, I'm dancing on Zoom.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh-huh.
and really like give us feedback and critique us. But she had this unique ability to help us remember choreography. Like that was like the biggest thing. And I was like, it's my brain. I can't
Yeah. Wait,
remember.
can we talk about that though? Because I also relate to what you were saying about not being able to remember choreography to the
Mm-hmm.
point where it was like so bad I can't even explain to you how bad it was for me.
Well, I believe you.
So when she started teaching those classes of how to retain choreography, I like gripped onto it full force. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is what I
Yeah.
need. And I'm pretty sure I took every single one that she offered actually because I knew that I needed it. And even when I got
Yeah.
better at it, I was like, I'm still taking the next one because I'm gonna like
Mm-hmm.
utilize these tools. Those classes were so helpful, and I love that you benefited from them as well. So continue.
I love the fact that she like really broke it down, and it almost feels like it's like one of those common things that nobody talks about. Like nobody wants to talk about the fact that you can't remember
100%.
the
It's a
choreography.
skill.
It's totally a skill.
Yeah.
And some people can just get it. And I think, I don't, I mean, I really don't know. But I wonder if this is like for the later dancers, the later bloomers, that this is kind of a thing. Because if you've been dancing since you're 2 years old, right? You haven't, your brain hasn't had a form, you know, with those bad
Yeah.
habits to then come in and be like,
She has mentioned that there are some advanced dancers that struggle with retaining choreography. I feel like you would assume that advanced dancers don't struggle with it. But she has mentioned that these classes are for the advanced dancers that also struggle with it, but also for anyone else who can relate to that as well. So I think it's a subject that everyone can relate to, or many people can relate to,
mm-hmm,
whether you're dancing in the industry or not. So I think it's really great to be able to have access to that information now and learn that it is a skill, and you don't have to leave class feeling like you're a terrible dancer because you can't remember choreography. Like those two are actually not in the same, and I thought that it was, and that's how I
yeah,
felt for so long. I
me
would leave
too.
class because basically every class I left feeling like totally blank on the choreography, and I'm like, oh, I suck. And it's
Mm-hmm,
like, no, it's a skill, and your dance
mm-hmm,
ability is not the same as the skill set of being able to remember choreography. So how did those classes make an impact for you?
Yeah, it was such a different, like, a lot of the dance classes that I had taken, I wouldn't say like address that because they weren't intended to address that, but what it felt like it was almost like it was adding to that like insecurity of like, well, I guess I'm not a great dancer. And that was the story I told myself. And that was what I believed. And it was exactly what you said. I didn't think I was a great
Mm-hmm.
dancer because I couldn't remember the choreography. But I knew when I had the
Mm-hmm.
choreography, I was a better dancer. Because I could actually put my own style and I could put my own things. But instead, I'm like, I don't know if it's a left foot, right foot, up, down, left, right. Am I moving forward, backward, side, side? Like, what is happening? What is going on here? And then I got so
Mm-hmm.
defeated. And then again, going back to your point, you're like, well, I guess I just kind of won't come back because, they're going in and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a great dancer. I'm just not going to dance. But then when you find that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
choreographer or that instructor, like a Galen, who is going in
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
taking the time and saying, okay, let's break this down. I really appreciated like what she taught us. And what I was exposed to. Because these are like things where like you have to be in LA. You've got to go in and take a class. And like I said, I'd never be exposed to something like that. And I probably never would have been like, I could take a Galen Oaks class, had she not went in and
Right.
started doing that
Yep.
during COVID, which again, I just think for me, it just like, it made
Yeah.
such an impact because I was still on the dance team. I was still looking at that, in terms of like, what did I learn from Galen and how could I apply that to like what I'm doing? But it also made me so keenly aware that not everybody instructs and nurtures and teaches in the same way. And I don't know how she
Yeah.
did it, right? But she was genuinely involved in like to see like the growth and see like the blossoming, with people who would like come in and return, or see that like the little chatter that we had in the community before the class would open, where we would go in and be like, hey, everybody, check in.
Uh-huh.
Let's see what's going on.
Yep.
And then like, hey, before everything ends, here's my
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, here's my thing, and here's how we can stay connected. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
It was such like, and we're
Yeah.
connected now. Like, Galen, you made an impact on that, right?
Yeah, I know. I can't even like think about the number of people that have been impacted from her teaching and from that time. Because when I think about myself, I mean, it's just exponential. And then even the way that I operate now is vastly different because of what I've learned from dance and through her. And I feel like because of that, the way that I interact with other people makes an impact on other people. So just the way that it's all impacting everybody really blows my mind. And I agree with everything that you said. And I think what's really cool too, for those that missed out on that special time that we experienced, she now has the GHM on demand classes too. So people are able to still take those how to retain choreography classes and those other classes that we were able to take together during that
Yeah.
time. But going back to what you were saying about community, sometimes we don't have those people around us in person, and it's important that we have some type of community in some capacity, and sometimes that just means through social media or through the podcasts we listen to, um, or whoever we follow and message occasionally from time to time. So I think we're very lucky that we were able to experience that and be a part of a wonderful community and still stay connected over the years. So, because this is the Decision to Dance podcast, Charmaine, can you tell us why do you dance?
Oh my gosh. I dance because I love to express myself through movement and dance. And I get to escape. I can become someone else. I can like get out and express this emotion or this feeling or um even just get out like excitement, just being able to escape. Um I get to escape reality or I get to choose to express reality. through dance. And I think it's so important for us to be able to find that creative outlet that brings us joy. And so as dancers, we are creative. And there is just like this huge opportunity for us to craft and hone our art, to be able to sometimes affect change in the world. And dance is also something that transcends space, it transcends time, even languages. You don't have to speak a certain language to know what that dancer is feeling or what that dancer wants you to feel. Um, and dance is like this universal language. If you kind of think about it that way, right? It is a language of expressionism. And I just love it.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to today's episode. This really just goes to show there really is more to us as dancers than how we present ourselves in class and to our teachers and to our peers. We've all experienced hardships, but we don't know what those hardships are until we actually get to know the people next to us. So thanks for taking the time to listen to today's episode. This one really moved me for sure. And don't forget that you all can follow us on Instagram at Decision to Dance Podcast. Thank you for being here, and we will see you all in the next episode.